Nowadays, it's all too common for horror movie reboots to be downright terrible cash grabs, made solely with the intent of cashing in on many fans' love and adoration for the genre and franchises. However, there are some instances when a remake comes out and exceeds all expectations by living up to the original and doing right by the beloved franchise. This reignites the passion that many fans have for the genre while also creating new fans in the process. So with that in mind then, I'm Ellie with What Culture here with 10 horror movie reboots that actually lived up to the original. Number 10. The Town That Dreaded Sundown. One thing that is absolutely necessary for a reboot of any film to do justice to the original is that the filmmakers taking on the task must have a great deal of respect for the source material. If those involved aren't passionate about building upon the legacy of a franchise they love, then it's doomed from the start. Thankfully, it's clear that The Town That Dreaded Sundown is a labour of love, and it works as both a reboot and a fitting homage to the 1976 film, with some meta nods to the original. There is a nostalgia factor at play here, which may help endear long-time fans to this picture. But that's not the only reason for its positive reception. The small town setting helps to create a spine-shivering atmosphere with razor-sharp tension. Addison Timlin's final girl Jamie Lerner is personable and you genuinely care and root for her, which is more than can be said for many of the genre's heroes and heroines, and a strong supporting cast bolster the roster of potential victims. Number 9. Fright Night. Fright Night is a reboot that no one was exactly crying out for. The original 1985 picture holds up to this day and is the epitome of 80s horror. Good scares, some witty humour, and just the right amount of cheesiness. You'd think that this would consign the 2011 remake to the DVD bargain bins, but instead it manages to deliver in modernising the classic vampire fright fest. It retains the tone of the original and the humour is definitely still there, but it's not overdone that it diminishes the looming threat or pushes the picture too far into the realm of ridiculousness. Some great performances from the main cast go a long way in selling the Fright Night redo too. Anton Yelchin certainly holds his own, but Colin Farrell's menacing bloodsucker is undoubtedly the star of the show, managing to captivate audiences and entrance them with his vampiric gaze. Number 8. The Thing. Horror films don't necessarily require intricate plots and complex character development. After all, chances are that those characters won't be sticking around for too long anyway. The Thing is aware of this and prefers to treat us to grotesque special effects and an unparalleled feeling of dread. The remote location in which the story unfolds is inherently eerie in its own right, even without an extraterrestrial threat, and the claustrophobic nature only heightens the paranoia. A veil of ambiguity surrounds each character, and it's impossible to tell who may have been compromised. The suspense continues to build throughout the entire film and never lets up, constantly threatening to boil over. Ennio Morricone's score goes a long way in helping to cultivate the suspense. Eerie synths fit perfectly with the sci-fi theme while still managing to retain the horror elements. Number 7. Child's Play. Child's Play takes a huge risk by completely omitting the supernatural aspect of the franchise and sees Chucky as a rogue AI doll, as opposed to a doll containing the spirit of a serial killer with a knack for voodoo. The risk is down to the fact that Chucky is a firm fan favourite thanks to his personality. His humour and one-liners rival that of Freddy Krueger and make him a delight to see on screen, even if he's brutally murdering anyone unlucky enough to cross paths with him. Thankfully, the reboot manages to retain the dark humour synonymous with the franchise, and Mark Hamill does a good job of walking the line between a young boy's favourite toy and an unfeeling killing machine. Brad Dourif left giant shoes to fill, and the fact that Hamill takes the character down a different route rather than trying to replicate Dourif's interpretation of the character goes a long way in keeping the film from feeling like a poor imitation. Number 6. Night of the Living Dead. When you want blood, guts, and everything in between in a movie, Tom Savini is the undisputed king of special effects in this realm. They don't call him the godfather of gore for nothing, after all. It's only fitting then that his directorial debut is a film in which he gets to showcase his handiwork in all of its gruesome glory. Night of the Living Dead takes George Romero's 1968 classic and gives it a fresh lick of crimson paint, bringing the movie to a wider audience. Fortunately, he doesn't just deliver in the special effects, and instead the reboot actually boasts some credible acting from its stars, effective scares, and enough changes to the plot that allow it to stand apart from its predecessor. The film does what a reboot should do by being innovative enough that it honors the source material without feeling like an unnecessary imitation. Number 5. Candyman. A well-executed reboot can sometimes be the lifeline that a franchise needs to either revive it and introduce it to new audiences or sweeten the bad taste left in existing fans' mouths after subpar sequels. Such is the case with Candyman, which wisely decided to ignore the second and third films in the timeline and instead only accept the events of the original as canon. Branching off and creating a separate Candyman timeline may have been confusing for audiences, but let's be honest, no one really acknowledges Farewell to the Flesh or Day of the Dead anyway. The reboot is, at surface level, a straightforward horror movie, with the titular bad guy terrorizing the unlucky residents of the new gentrified Cabrini Green. But Jordan Peele's influence is clear, and Nia DaCosta does a phenomenal job of weaving complex social commentary throughout the narrative. Fans of the genre who like a healthy dose of gore in their films aren't left wanting either. There's enough scares to keep viewers on their toes, and the Candyman gets plenty of opportunities to brandish his signature hook hand that fans are familiar with. Number 4. Cape Fear. The original 1962 Cape Fear is an excellent film, and stellar performances from Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum alone make it worth the watch. However, the 1991 reboot delivers a masterclass in cultivating a tense, anxiety-inducing atmosphere that will have you on the edge of your seat from start to finish. Martin Scorsese packs so much suspense into 2 hours and showcases why he is one of the finest filmmakers in the business. Scorsese's version of events depicts each character with their own flaws, and Sam Bowden's dysfunctional family is troubled long before the arrival of Max Cady. Cady is on a mission fueled by vengeance and continually taunts Bowden, who is unable to escape his ominous presence. The brilliance in the 1991 film is that at face value, Cady is of course the bad guy and Bowden is who we should be rooting for. But digging a little deeper reveals that the villain of the story has actually been wronged to some degree, and the supposed hero of the story is far from squeaky clean. Number 3. Evil Dead. The Evil Dead franchise is perhaps one of horror's weirdest, and its trademark slapstick comedy is what grants it a special place in the hearts of many fans. Bruce Campbell's comedic chops are a true gem, and the movie series is the pinnacle of comedy in horror films. Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead, though, decides to steer the franchise in a darker direction. Gone are the boomsticks and flying medieval deadites that audiences are familiar with, and instead we're returned to the franchise's roots. A group of friends in a cabin in the middle of nowhere, with nowhere to run from the terrors that await in the darkness that surrounds them. The film has a much darker tone from the outset, with eventual final girl Mia coming to the cabin with her friends in order to battle her heroin addiction. It's a haunting premise that sets the mood for the rest of the runtime. When things do begin going south, the picture doesn't ever hit the brakes, and bucket loads of gore and violence will have even the most seasoned horror veterans wincing. Number 2. It. The original It miniseries crams a lot into its runtime, and while it's still enjoyable, it can leave you feeling pretty exhausted after watching. That's where the 2017 reboot starts to shine. Instead of switching timelines between the Losers Club's first and second confrontations with Pennywise, it instead only focuses on the first, which offers a bit more breathing room and allows for stronger character development. The main cast at the centre of Maine's worst nightmare is stellar, and you can't help but become invested in each of the Loser Club's relationships with each other. Despite their young age, each of the child actors have impeccable screen presence and offer some truly hilarious moments, while still delivering during the picture's most emotional sequences. Of course, what's a horror movie without a good monster? Tim Curry's portrayal of Pennywise is iconic, but Bill Skarsgård takes the killer clown to new heights. He's much more unnerving and will have you squirming in your seat constantly. But when he's let loose, Skarsgård's performance goes from creepy to completely terrifying in an instant, and the psychological terror that this rendition of the monster wreaks upon Maine's youngest inhabitants is wonderfully horrific. Number 1. Halloween. The original Halloween film is without question the perfect slasher. Unfortunately, as more and more sequels released, the magic of the original diminished until eventually we had Busta Rhymes engaging in a kung fu fight with Michael Myers. We're stuck with that forever. Many fans felt after Rob Zombie's ill-fated attempt at reviving the franchise that we had seen the last of Haddonfield, until 2018, when a new entry, also confusingly titled simply Halloween, in the franchise was released. It decides to completely ignore the messy timeline of the sequels, and instead, Halloween serves as a direct sequel to the 1978 movie, which works in its favour. Jamie Lee Curtis reprises her role as final girl Laurie Strode, and James Jude Courtney does a lot of the legwork in making The Shape the truly menacing, unstoppable embodiment of evil that he originally was. In the film, we see that Laurie struggles with her past, and her obsession with Michael causes rifts in her own personal relationships. It develops a narrative that the two have an almost symbiotic relationship, and their fates are destined to collide once more.